Appeal for crucial action. ASUU is urging the National Assembly to discard any provisions of the Nigerian Tax Bill 2024 that could undermine the existence and effectiveness of TETFund. The union is calling on relevant and critical stakeholders in the education sector and the general public to join forces in preserving this all-important agency that is playing a fundamental role in repositioning Nigerian tertiary education for global competitiveness and transformative development. The survival of TETFund is a matter of national importance. Thus, ASUU firmly resolves not to stay silent as TETFund, a monumental achievement of the union's constructive engagement with successive Nigerian governments since 1992, faces intimidations of dwindling or eradication. Any attempt, whether intentional or otherwise, to repeal TETFund Act 2011 will constitute a monumental and profound damage to the education sector and the nation as a whole. ASUU therefore calls on the National Assembly, particularly the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, to use their good offices and influence to ensure that TETFund remains protected under the Nigerian Tax Bill 2024. Thank you for listening. The Nigerian Tax Bill 2024, a dastard evil against the Nigerian education system. Gentlemen of the press, the Abuja Zone of Academic Staff Union of University is conveying serious worry over the continued deliberations on the Nigerian Tax Bill 2024, presently under analysis by the National Assembly. Fundamental to ASUU's trepidation is the planned eradication of the education tax, which has been the financial mainstay of TETFund. TETFund is an intervention organization established by law to provide supplementary funding to public tertiary institutions, including universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education in Nigeria. Its foundation dates back to September 3, 1992, when the federal government reached a settlement with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, on funding of public universities following a protracted industrial action. By January 1993, the Education Tax Act No. 7 of 1993 was passed, alongside other education-related decrees, introducing a 2% tax on the assessable proceeds of all registered limited liability companies in Nigeria. The tax was proposed to rehabilitate and restore the country's ailing education system. Under this act, TETFund was authorized to serve as an intervention agency for all levels of public education. However, in 2011, the Education Tax Act was repealed and replaced by the Tertiary Education Trust Fund Act No. 16, lessening TETFund's emphasis exclusively to tertiary education for greater impact. However, the proposal redirects these funds to the newly established Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFund, raises weighty fears. Nigerians will recall that in addition to TETFund, there was also the Needs Assessment Initiative to augment the effort of TETFund that was considered insufficient due to the colossal decay of the tertiary education system. During the administration of Dr. Goodluck E. Jonathan, this initiative led to the release of 200 billion naira for the revamping of universities and development of a 6-year plan to invigorate tertiary education in Nigeria. However, the Muhammad Buhari-led administration dealt a severe blow to this project, releasing less than 200 billion naira throughout its 8-year tenure. The President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration has not only abandoned the project, but effectively suppressed it. Going forward, after destroying the needs assessment scheme, government is gearing towards phasing out TETFund completely by the year 2030, in which this action will destroy what is left of the worrisome state of tertiary education in Nigeria. To this end, ASUU is principally upset by Section 59, subsection 3 of the Nigerian Tax Bill 2024, which recommends that only 50% of the education tax development levy will be allotted to TETFund in 2025 and 2026. The remaining funds are to be shared among NITA, NASENI, and NELFund. Additionally, from 2030 onwards, TETFund will receive no allocation, with all proceeds redirected to NELFund, implying that TETFund will cease to exist. This is the dastard evil behind the Tax Reform Bill of 2024. The implication of the proposed tax system. The planned shift in funding towards student loans may be an approach to force public tertiary education institutions into applying overpriced tuition fees and possibly converting them into revenue-generating bodies. The phasing out of TETFund will cause a momentous danger to tertiary education in Nigeria, as its aid to the fiscal infrastructure and human capital development will eventually come to a stop. This move could also lead to students becoming protracted debtors, imitating the financial challenges faced by the nation itself. ASUU believes that these changes will brutally weaken TETFund, which has played a fundamental role in the development of Nigeria's public tertiary education system for over a decade, and eventually kill it by 2030. It is no longer news that monetary provisions to public tertiary institutions have consistently been obviously insufficient. Capital development in these institutions has collapsed, leaving them heavily subject to TETFund for persistence. The precarious issue now is how will public tertiary institutions cope up if this proposed reform is approved. In Abuja Zone alone, TETFund has been the major financier of staff training, building of offices, classrooms, lecture theaters, and laboratories. In Nasarawa State University, Kefi, for instance, over 30 major structures were built by TETFund, and over 100 academics have been sponsored for higher degrees, both in local and overseas universities. Similarly, over 300 staff have enjoyed sponsorship for international conferences spanning between 2010 and 2023. At the Federal University of Lafayette, the fund is responsible for construction of over 90% of the 55 physical structures on the university's 2 campuses. It is also responsible for local and foreign staff training and building and equipping of laboratories since inception of the university. The only main library of the university was built solely by the fund. The story is not different at the University of Abuja, where over 70% of all the physical structures, including furnishing and equipping of laboratories, were as a result of TETFund intervention since the establishment of the fund. The Federal University of Technology, Minna, and Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida University, Lapai, are not exempted from the benefits of the fund. At FUT in Minna, over 80% of staff who obtained higher degrees between 2010 and 2023 was solely sponsored by TETFund. Similarly, the university benefited from the construction of over 40 major physical structures, including lecture theaters, offices, classrooms, laboratories, workshops, and workshops. Staff training at IBBU Lapai, as sponsored by the TETFund, stood at 250 for both local and foreign postgraduate studies. In the same vein, aside the foundation project, almost all other physical structures were constructed and furnished through TETFund and needs assessment. Our fears. 1. Redirecting any portion of the education tax to agencies not recognized under the TETFund Act of 2011 is a violation of the law and must not be allowed. 2. Eliminating TETFund's allocation from 2030 effectively dismantles the agency. The suggestion that TETFund should explore alternative funding mechanisms is not practicable, as the agency was specifically established to manage funds from the education tax. 3. Prioritizing NEL fund over TETFund is likened to sacrificing a proven system for an untested one. This approach is unethical and unproductive. 4. TETFund's contribution to infrastructure, research, and postgraduate training in public tertiary institutions has been transformative. Its absence will regress the education sector and hinder Nigeria's progress in global education ranking. 5. TETFund's consistent support has alleviated many industrial disputes in tertiary institutions by funding facility, renovations, staff development, and other critical needs. Its elimination could reignite agitations and unrest. Beyond tertiary institutions, TETFund supports the entire education system from kindergarten to secondary schools by enabling the production of quality teachers and staff. 7. Countries like Ghana have modeled their education trust funds after TETFund, and other African nations have sought to learn from its operations. Instead of dismantling it, Nigeria should focus on enhancing and sustaining. You see, sometimes ago, there were a series of allegations that many beneficiaries of foreign scholarship refused to come back. And that raised the issue of either to continue or not to continue. In Nigeria, either we like it or not, there are certain critical areas that we still need foreign intervention, foreign training. And to me, by making that statement is good. But I may advise that TETFund should also look inward and see that trainings that are available within Nigeria, instead of spending so much money outside, they should channel that fund into the existing institutions in Nigeria and provide the necessary backup to raise the standard to that of international standard.
I want to formally welcome you to the ASUU introducing the soul, the members representing the chairperson is Comrade Comrade Abdulkadir. We also have several people in the chairperson. Having welcomed the members of the soul, I want to quickly National Union of Road Transport Workers, who happens to be the first to be here, these people here, the Comrade Chairperson of the Zonal University. Comrade. 1, 2. Also, here is the
press. We have in our midst here this morning from the leadership newspaper. We also have other friends of the union fully represented. Once more on behalf of the Zonal Coordinator.
TETFund's achievement.
What will you going to do? Is there anything like what you do to address such?
To the bill and the press conference that ASUU has been organizing for the past 4 days.
And this is all about us. So we're totally 100%.
Capture that one in your news.
So, ladies and interject?
Wait, I tell Nasu want to say something.
Okay, that's, yes.
But we are 100% in support. In fact, as a matter of fact, most students are skeptical about applying for this new fund. Just want to keep you on hand. It is sad that funds are